Okay, let's dive into a pretty radical idea. What if a huge, sophisticated chapter of human history was just completely erased, wiped off the map, leaving behind only the faintest whispers? This is the story of the lost civilizations of the Ice Age.
I mean, this quote, it just perfectly sets the stage, right? It makes you question everything we think we know about our own timeline. The idea that long before the pyramids, long before the very first cities, there was another world, a whole other story.
So, to really get this, we've got to go back in time, and I mean way back. Not to the very dawn of humanity, but to a really critical moment about 13,000 years ago. This was the end of the last great ice age, a time when our entire planet was finally thawing out. Now, this wasn't some static, boring world. It was dynamic, it was full of opportunity. You had glaciers melting and pulling back, opening up massive new lands. Huge grasslands were spreading across the continents, which meant they could support giant herds of animals. And humanity? Well, we weren't just surviving anymore, we were starting to settle down, to organize.
So you really have to ditch that old image of the Stone Age, cavemen huddled in the cold just trying to make it to the next day. No, this was a world just brimming with potential. Humanity was evolving fast, and we were right on the very edge of a huge breakthrough.
So who were the main characters in this story? Well, it really boils down to two. Incredibly capable humans, way more advanced than we give them credit for, and the giant beasts they shared the planet with.
And I mean, forget everything you think you know about primitive hunter-gatherers. The evidence we have suggests these people were absolute masters of their environment. They could cross entire continents, they navigated coastlines that are now hundreds of feet underwater, and they hunted the biggest animals on the planet. They were building complex ritual sites and tracking the stars thousands of years before we thought that was even possible, passing down all this knowledge from one generation to the next.
And the world they lived in, wow. It was literally a planet of giants. We're talking woolly mammoths, dire wolves, saber-toothed cats, bears the size of small cars. These creatures weren't just in the background. They were the pillars of the entire ecosystem.
And humanity's existence was completely woven together with theirs. Humans depended on these megafauna for everything. Food, tools from their bones, clothes and shelter from their hides, even their culture and their beliefs were tied to them. It's like their whole world was balanced on the backs of these giants.
And then it all just stopped. In what's basically a blink of an eye in geological time, that entire world just broke. A catastrophe hit that didn't just end the Ice Age, it completely reset the course of human history.
And we can actually pinpoint when this happened. The evidence points to a really specific moment in deep time, around 12,800 years ago. You're going to want to remember that date because that's the moment the world we've been talking about just vanishes. So what happened? Geologists have a name for it, the Younger Dryas. And what it was a totally shocking and incredibly fast return to full-on Ice Age conditions. Just when the planet was finally warming up, it was violently thrown back into a deep freeze. I mean, you have to understand how jarring this was. The planet's on this nice, steady warming path, and then, bam! A massive shock to the system. The deep freeze comes roaring back, and not over thousands of years, but maybe, just maybe, within a few decades. Can you even imagine your entire world changing that fast?
So who got hit first? The giants. They were the first to go. This rapid climate shift, the whole ecosystem just collapsing, it triggered a mass extinction. The mammoths, the saber-tooths, the dire wolves, they all vanished forever in a geologic heartbeat.
And the people who relied on them for everything? Well, you can guess. The impact was absolutely devastating. Human populations just crashed. People were forced to migrate, they were cut off from all their resources, they were thrown back into pure survival mode. Any complex societies that might have been forming, they were just wiped out.
Okay, so if this entire world was basically wiped off the map, what's left? Are there any clues? Let's dig into the wreckage and see what echoes we can find.
One of the biggest clues is also the reason it's so hard to find anything. All that melting ice had to go somewhere, right? Sea levels rose. A lot. We're talking over 120 meters. That's nearly 400 feet. Think about that. All the best real estate, the coastlines where advanced people would love to live, just gone, submerged.
And this leads to a really fascinating idea. You know how almost every single ancient culture on Earth has some kind of great flood story? A tale of a golden age that was wiped out by water?
What if those aren't just stories? What if they're memories? Faint, broken memories of a real event, of a world that was literally drowned.
Okay, so this is the absolute core of the mystery. If the survivors were knocked all the way back to square one, just scattered bands of hunter-gatherers fighting to survive, then how in the world did they build this?
This place, this incredible mystery, it has a name: Gobekli Tepe. It's an archaeological site in Turkey that has completely turned our understanding of the ancient world upside down.
You have to understand why Gobekli Tepe is such a problem for this standard story of history. It was built right after that big freeze, more than 11,000 years ago. We're talking massive, beautifully carved stone pillars, really complex symbols, even astronomical alignments. And here's the kicker. This was all built before farming, before cities, before writing. It's like, where did they get the instruction manual for this? It suggests they inherited knowledge from somewhere else.
So, let's put it all together. What does this all point to? It points to a completely different story of our past. And it's not just about some lost city. It's about the very idea of history itself. And maybe, just maybe, a warning we've forgotten.
So you might be asking, okay, if this is true, where are the ruins? Where's the hard proof? Well, think about it logically. First, if they lived on the coasts, their homes are now hundreds of feet underwater. Second, they probably built with stuff like wood and earth, things that just rot away over time. And third, and this is the big one, their entire world, the ecosystem they depended on, completely collapsed. It's almost like they were perfectly designed to vanish without a trace.
And all of this leads to a really staggering thought. What if our history books have it all wrong? What if ancient Sumeria and Egypt weren't the start of civilization? What if they were just the first ones to get back on their feet after the world hit a giant reset button? History didn't begin 6,000 years ago. It restarted. And that leaves us with one last, kinda chilling thought. The Younger Dryas event proves that our planet can change violently, fast enough to end a civilization. It erased an entire world once before. And you have to wonder, if it happened once, could it happen again?